Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Reap the Spoils. A bonus episode, a shorter episode, a special episode. Every episode is special. Who am I kidding?
Because
I'm
we
Mark
love you,
Sullivan.
folks.
I'm Mark Sullivan,
I'm Delaila Lugo.
I'm Jason Kwasnicki.
and Delilah. What are we talking about?
Ghost of Tsushima, Iki Island.
Yes, we're talking about the Iki Island expansion that came with the Ghost of Tsushima director's cut that just recently came out. It's pretty short, so I'll go on my little tirade here. If you have not played, first of all, if you haven't played Ghost of Tsushima at all, don't listen to this episode. Go play Ghost of Tsushima, and then still don't listen to this episode. Go listen to our special Ghost of Tsushima episode of Reap the Spoils. That came out last year sometime, pretty much a little over a year ago. Yeah, go listen to that. And that goes for if you want to hear our thoughts on like the gameplay and like most of like what you can do in the game, obviously the main story. If you want to hear our thoughts on that, go listen to that episode. We're not really going to touch on a lot of that stuff here because we touched on it there, so it doesn't make sense to repeat ourselves. We might talk. Obviously we'll talk a little bit about it, but like overall thoughts, go listen to that little episode. But if you have played the Iki Island expansion that came with Ghost of Tsushima director's cut, please stay and listen. Sound good?
Yes. And if played Ghost of Tsushima and you haven't listened to that episode, go listen to it. And we want to hear what ending you chose because we chose different endings.
This is true. This is true. Okay, so I'm not gonna do my usual thing of a history lesson.
No,
because I kind of already
We're
did.
living history. We're making history right now.
I mean, if you want to hear the history of Ghost of Tsushima, again, go listen to the Ghost of Tsushima episode we did of Reap the Spoils last year. But with Iki Island specifically, it's like it came with the director's cut. The director's cut came out last month in August. Where at the time of recording, it's early September. So like that's kind of it. You know, they announced earlier this year, hey, there's a director's cut coming. Iki Island's coming with it. Whole new place to explore. Neat. Thanks. That's kind of all there is to the history lesson. So, yeah, I guess I did give a history lesson. It was just like super brief. So
Thank
are we
you.
ready?
I feel complete now.
I'm glad. I'm so glad you feel complete. I guess are we ready to just jump in to Iki Island?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So I remember distinctly at the end of the Ghost of Tsushima episode. When we recorded, I remember saying distinctly that I did not want a sequel. Not because I didn't want a sequel, but because I had certain fears. And I want to open this by saying this expansion simultaneously confirmed some of those fears, but also dissipated some of them. And we'll get into it in each section as we go.
Okay,
so
yeah,
I was happily surprised, I'll say.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay. Well, I mean, let's open up by just talking about I guess the elephant in the room, sort of, just Jin's father. So first of all, at the beginning of the game, we kind of, like the base game, we kind of understand that Jin's father was like murdered in front of him and he couldn't do anything to save him, right? And we get
He's
that
Batman. He's
sure.
Bruce Wayne.
Not really, but like kind of like
it's literally the Batman archetype is Jin Sakai.
Yeah, sure, but like it's not the same story, you know. And,
no. Yeah, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get it. But so I guess I never realized. We never actually, it doesn't make sense to think that the Mongols killed his father because the Mongols hadn't invaded Japan yet. But I guess I never put together, like, I never thought about, like, who or what killed his father. I don't remember if it was ever explicitly stated throughout the main game.
No.
Playing the main game, I kind of sped run it, so I didn't really get to confirm that. But yeah.
Can you confirm something real quick because you replayed it and I did not?
Sure. Maybe.
To my memory, I remember at the very end of the game when you're riding along with your uncle, Lord, was it Shimura?
Yeah.
Lord Shimura, yeah.
And he mentions that that Jin's father was somewhat rebellious and not very fond of the shogunate. Mm-hmm. Was I correct in that? Am I correct in thinking that there was a piece of dialogue? Because that heavily informs my thinking on this game.
I think that may have been the case.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Lord Shimura was always saying, like, the things that Jin's doing when he was moving towards Ghost reminded him a lot of his own father.
Okay. All right, go forward, because this is something that was always pressing in my mind. That, and if I'm correct or if I'm wrong, weighs heavily on how I view the story. But we'll talk further. Keep going.
Okay, so yeah, well, I never really put together we never really knew who or what killed Kazumasa except for someone killed him, and we come to find out with Jin, he finds that there's something bad going on Iki Island and decides, okay, I gotta go and check it out, and that's when we start to learn more about that backstory, that the Sakai clan and a group of samurai went to Iki Island to kind of quell this growing population of raiders that were there on the island, and the raiders wound up ambushing Kazumasa and killing him. And throughout the game, one of the collectibles you do is the memories of your father, which is a weird collectible name if you ask me, but those kind of inform us of Jin's relationship with his father when he was still alive. And how did you guys view this relationship? Because I got a lot of mixed signals about it, or at least about how Jin views it himself, especially coming off the main game and how he talked. Now in the main game, it's not like he was talking about his father all the time. It makes a lot more sense because he's almost like a primary focus of the story. So I guess that's what I like. How did you guys feel about that relationship, seeing it firsthand and in those memories?
I'm glad we got to know their relationship more. I thought it was a good way to add story without having anything substantial taken away from people who can't get their hands on this DLC right now. And I felt like the relationship initially was very tumultuous. His dad seemed very rough around the edges, and he didn't accept Jin as a warrior and kind of felt like he wasn't a worthy successor or whatever the case. And then, which made their moments towards the end of the memories a lot more heartfelt, when he was finally oh, I see you as a warrior, you're strong now. I trust that, you can hold your own, you're worthy of the Sakai name, right? And then for all that to happen, and then we know that the father died in front of Jin's eyes, and Jin kind of froze and couldn't do anything about it, even though he was already acknowledged as a warrior that can hold his own. And then we get into the visions and shit. I won't go too far into it, but I thought it nicely connected all of the mental turmoil that Jin had around his father. And it sucks that when they were finally coming to a good place, that then he died.
Yeah.
Yes. And when I was playing it, I saw what they were trying to do, which is Delaila basically just laid it out, establishing that they kind of have a distant relationship from when Jin's mother passed, because his mother was his primary caretaker, and then of course she passes, so Kazumasa has to take up that role, and they're supposed to, over the course of these memories, grow close together. But this is where one of my fears of a sequel kind of bore fruition. In my opinion, and I said this in our Ghost of Tsushima podcast, which you can go and listen to.
I implore you.
I said that Jin's character arc had completed, and so there was a bit of a disconnect as somebody who had already completed the game, and I kind of was going into this feeling like it was for people who had already completed the game. Especially with the difficulty spike, which I guess we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
It felt like we were retreading ground that we had already covered, because Jin and his internal turmoil that Delilah was just referencing with the memory of his father and watching him die and stuff, and the memory of his father and the legacy of his father. Is he going to go forward as Lord Shimura, trying to make him as a, the traditional noble, quote unquote, samurai in the eyes of society and carry on the Sakai clan's name with honor? Or is he going to go his own way and do what he knows is right, which he comes towards the end, as we just talked about, is maybe more in line with what his father believed in than he thought originally. So I thought that had already been taken care of pretty successfully in the original story. And here to open that up again, and not only open it up, but to kind of contradict it in the way that they depict Kazumasa as sort of this very rigid, I don't want to say bloodthirsty, but he's very strict. He's the classic depiction of the noble warrior. He has that coat of samurai honor. Sorry, that the original game almost told us that he was the complete opposite of in many respects. So it was kind of all over the place.
Quite to that level of strictness,
Yeah. So it was kind of all over the place and contradictory. I mean, at the end of the day, you kind of get to the same place where the original game ends, but I almost was left wondering what was the point. I felt it's a case of less is more, if you get what I'm saying.
So I don't know that I totally agree with that. Like, I feel like there was a point to that story. Like we didn't really have a lot of context behind his father, but we know that played a lot into Jin's journey in the main game, right? He hasn't worn like the clan armor since the day his father was killed, and we know that that's part of his origin story, so to speak, of he witnessed his father die, and he was kind of helpless to stop it. So like revisiting that and telling that story and fleshing out his father, because his father is this core character to who Jin is as a person, I think it's meaningful, but I totally agree that a lot of it is contradictory. I do believe that that's correct, that his father was told to kind of be a little more rebellious and not as strict as Shimura is depicted as. And we kind of just are left to take him at his word for it. But that isn't what we saw in Iki Island in those memories, and also how the people talk about him, because a lot of the people talk about him and the Sakai
They call
clan.
him the butcher.
Yeah. He's the butcher of Iki. So, and to also, it makes sense to dig into Jin's trauma of being helpless to save his father, and like kind of his guilt, and that story of him overcoming that guilt is meaningful, but getting those flashbacks and those memories, they were all over the place. And I know, like, Jin's hardly the first person to have a complicated relationship with his father, but like I'm not sure what the primary focus of those memories should have been. Should it have been to show that he was a compassionate man, or should it have been to show that to kind of explain that distance between Jin and his father, And I think they kind of helped to show how Jin was a lesser warrior in his youth, but also kind of show like how I think the big thing that those memories also tried to do was show the effects on both of them of losing Jin's mother. And but I also feel that was a very overlooked point that they should have probably honed in on a little better, because that is important to both their stories.
I don't think that the memories are in and of themselves a bad thing. I think they could have been done much better and much more cohesively.
Yeah, I mean, I'll agree with that.
I think I would have been interested, and maybe would be interested in seeing the dynamic between Lord Shimura and the father before obviously he died. That I think would make for like good alternate DLC, like another DLC, or they could have added it here.
Especially when you consider that you can play this as you're progressing through the main game.
Yeah.
So this is not post-game content, or we don't know if it's supposed to be. It feels like post-game content.
We can touch on it a little bit right now because I mean we don't have to spend a lot of time on it, but yeah, you can access this. You can access Iki Island once you get to Act 2 of the game, the second part of Tsushima Island. You can access it as early as that, but throughout the expansion, because we all played it after having beaten the main game, so we had already seen the whole story. And doing Iki Island, when Jin gets poisoned, he starts hallucinating, and you see hallucinations of characters you don't run into, or seeing events or discussions of events that you don't see until close to the end of the game. So it's like, what happens if you play this too early?
Oh my
and
God.
Are you
if they spoil your horse dying?
That happens at the end of Act 2, doesn't it? Am I bugging?
What,
I don't
your horse
remember.
Dying? Yeah. I think that happens at the end of Act 2.
Yeah, like after Act 2, beginning of Act 3. Like Act 3 opens with you escaping Castle Shimura and them firing an arrow into your horse's behind, and you bury your horse in the third area, and that's the beginning of Act 3.
That hit me.
It's like, yeah, beginning.
I got some feels on that flashback. Then.
Yeah, I did too. And like if you start, like I really should have done it again, but like during a New Game Plus run that I did, but like I didn't really feel like doing all that again when all I really wanted was the New Game Plus trophy. Sorry, but. You get to the second act and you could do that expansion. So are you depriving yourself of just like a ton of moments and scenes that you can witness because you didn't wait to do it until after the main game? And it really does feel like an after you beat the main game thing, because of the new enemy types and the massive difficulty spike that you'll hit if you go do that island at the very beginning of Act 2. You're going from just like regular non-armored Mongols to fucking dudes that are heavily armored and can switch their weapon types, and these other dudes that start singing and like buffing everyone else.
Ultimate buffs.
Yeah, like what a jump. Holy shit, like going back to the game after not having played it, but like still being fully upgraded and everything.
God, I got destroyed.
It was still really tough.
Yeah.
I feel like it should have been locked until you finish the main game, but I don't know. If not for the balance reasons, for the story implications and the story additions that you probably miss out on by doing it too soon. It's just a shame. It really kind of feels like, as weird as this is to say, a celebration of Ghost of Tsushima, giving you all these flashbacks and reminders and remembrances of these things that you've already done in the main game. It's odd to say the least that you can access it so early. But yeah, we can move on from that. It's just that is something that I wanted to touch on, so we might as well touch on it now. Going back to Kazumasa, sorry, did you guys want to say something else? I didn't want to cut you guys off.
No.
Okay. Going back to Kazumasa, or not really, we can kind of move on. We could talk about the guy that killed him.
So, first of all, Tenzo is a homie. I love Tenzo. I loved him from the minute I met him. He had some really cool lines. But I was like, listen, I've been jaded by what's his name? The Straw Hat guy? Ryuzo, yeah. I was like, all right, the last guy I was like cool with, he betrayed me. I was like, this guy's gonna betray me, but I didn't know that he would be the killer of my father this whole time. I did not call that.
100% wasn't expect. First of all, I feel like this is a new Jason test. Jason, did you expect that twist?
No, actually, I thought that was a good one.
Oh, yes.
Like I said, the original Ghost of Tsushima was a very well written game, and while I would say this is not nearly as well written, Tenzo is by far and away the best part of the game, and this is one of those parts where my fears of a sequel were kind of assuaged, because had it just been a story about Jin going to this island and hanging out with Tenzo, meeting Tenzo, hanging out with him, and had it just been a story about Jin, his relationship with the Raiders, how his past as a samurai affects that, and had there been just kind of a stock villain of the underworld, like a smuggler or something, that rises to power in response to the Mongol invasion, in what would have been a very, very Kurosawa. I talked about Kurosawa a lot in our last last podcast.
It's a direct influence, so
Yeah, that would have been. Tenzo is a very Kurosawa type character, which is probably why I like him so much. And that would have been a great story that would have further explored the themes of, the societal impact of the shogunate system and the samurai, and how it affects the little people, and Jin's decision to help the little people. But now that Jin wants to help the little people, they don't like him because they know he was a samurai. So how does he... That's a far more interesting story to me than delving deeper into Jin's guilt. It's almost like writing a Batman comic. I'm sorry to keep using Batman, but Jin is Batman.
It makes sense.
It's like writing a Batman comic about Bruce Wayne's relationship with his father. And you know what I'm saying? Like, I would rather have the more Tenzo stuff, and more stuff with the smugglers and the raiders and the feudal Japanese underworld. That's where I could see a great sequel, where you're not so much focused on Jin's character growth, because we really did see Jin bloom in that first game, but more now on the plot stuff and how he affects society as a whole.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, they both play into one another, right? Because the whole conflict with Tenzo becomes he realizes in Tenzo saying, when killing a Mongol, the same thing that he said when he killed his father. Jin has that realization, like, you're the man that killed my father. But the conflict then becomes like, well, was he justified in doing it? And that and that kind of worsens the internal conflict that he has of, he didn't save his father. Well, maybe it's because he knew, besides the fact that he was maybe helpless to save him, maybe he knew that it was his time to go, or that he deserved the fate that he got. And I think that ultimately is kind of what, in being on Iki Island and seeing the aftermath of the Sakai invasion, frankly, I feel like that might play into why he was able to let go of that guilt and forgive Tenzo for the fact that he killed his father, because I feel like we got enough to maybe realize that Jin doesn't always think his father's the best guy, and he wasn't. What we see, him going and killing all these people, and like their opinions of him, and gathering that, like, we're kind of led to the same conclusion, or at least I was led to the same conclusion about his father. So,
which I think is interesting, because there's certain dialogue choices where you're able to choose like a more vengeful path, like in protection of your father's death.
Yeah.
Especially when you find out that Tenzo was the killer, which to me just didn't fit at all into who Jin is and what his purpose was in being at Iki Island. So thankfully I didn't choose those dialogue choices, but I wonder how much disconnected the outcome would have been if people did choose to oh, that's my father, I'll kill you or whatever.
Well, that was something that irked me a bit. So when you get that last memory of your father, you do I forget if it's a haiku or if you play a song.
It's a haiku.
Yeah.
And then a song after, actually.
Well, whichever one comes last, immediately afterwards, you get a final choice, which is basically like Jin rendering his judgment on his father's legacy. And you're given a choice between one of them. They're polar opposites. One is like, you were a man who got lost in his own legacy and died in vain, or something like that. And then the other one is, you were just a human being trying to make the best of, a violent world, or something like that. Basically like polar opposite extremes, which kind of irked me, because one of the things I praised the first game on is that you're given two very different choices for the ending, but they both get you ultimately to the same place. just in slightly different ways. If you understand what we talked about this at length in the podcast.
Yeah, and I think that choice specifically is going to have more. I mean, I feel like it's going to be completely moot by the time the sequel, the inevitable sequel comes out, because they're going to have to choose one or the other over which choice is the canon choice. I think we also talked about this in our main Ghost of Tsushima episode in terms of these dialogue choices, and in Ghost of Tsushima it's kind of a shame that they're pretty much meaningless. They get you some different conversations, but overall it's the same path. And that's a shame coming from a game like Infamous 2, where depending on choices you make, the whole end of the game is completely different. Kind of not unsimilar to the end of this game, but this game didn't really lean into that nearly as much, and that's something I really would have liked. It's with this DLC and talking about your father, yeah, it's even less meaningful, and it's a shame, right? Talking to these people, and these people have a very clear hatred of the Sakai clan, and you can either lean into I'm a Sakai or I should not tell you that I'm a Sakai. And I feel like it would have been interesting to see things diverge a little bit from either being open about your identity or keeping it a secret, like how the story played out for everyone.
Yeah.
And it just didn't, and that's ultimately
see it worked, and I think I talked. I think I talked about this in the original podcast as well. It worked for me, at least in the original one, because the choice came in the form of the actual gameplay, where you can almost role play out how, even though Jin's story is always going to end up in the same place, you role play to what degree does he embrace the way of, the ghost, or you can say shinobi, whatever, or does he continue to hold true to the way of the samurai? And that's reflected in the final two choices you get in the main game, between the two different styles of gameplay, even though story-wise they technically kind of get you to the same place.
Right. But like role-playing it is one thing.
Like here it's a little, because you're already the ghost, and so I agree with you, and I see that argument where it would be more interesting, again, going back to what I said about seeing how you being a Sakai, how that affects your interactions with society. It would have been cool to see that more. Yeah.
I think that I'm glad they didn't make us choose whether to have revenge on Tenzo or not. I thought that they were going to do that for a moment, but then they didn't, which I'm glad they did it, because I think it just made, like, spoke to Jin's character a lot more. I think if he would have had revenge, I don't know, it would have made things a little muddy. But that also would have blew a lot of minds if they did the same thing.
If they did do that, but either way, you come out of that valley and you tell Fune that he died in battle with the main villain, whose name I forget because the villain sucks.
But we'll
get to that. The eagle, yeah. But imagine that you are given that choice, and either way he dies. He either gets killed by the villain or you kill him. And then you basically have to bear the knowledge, if you did kill him yourself, that you lied.
Yeah,
that would be an interesting character choice. You're plot-wise, you're still getting in the same place where he's dead at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But it's more of knowledge of Jin as a character changes drastically.
I don't think I would like Jin as much if he did that.
You get to make that choice.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. I mean, I guess we can pivot off of Tenzo, and yeah, let's talk about the eagle. Jason, you just dropped a bomb there. You thought the villain sucked.
Yeah, the ultimate villain of the original game was more society writ large rather than Khotun Khan. Khotun Khan was kind of just the plot villain, and then that's why the game doesn't end with his death. The game ends with you facing off with Lord Shimura. But Khotun Khan had 10 times as much character as the Eagle. The Eagle wasn't even a character. It was just like a somewhat more powerful version of the other chanting whatever they were called.
The shaman.
Shamans.
Yeah.
She's a weird one, right? Because she has weird motivations. She's very different than Khoten Khan, because he came there for to conquer and to dominate, and she's there to make people face their trauma and then turn them into her shaman. And yeah, that doesn't really work for me.
I just don't
It's
understand
just-
why she wants to do that. Like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. Like, you want to be a therapist to people, I guess. It's some kind of form of therapy, but like,
I guess she
What?
wants to. What was that?
sorry, Google just started talking. She thought I was talking to her for some reason.
Sorry, that's all right. Go on. What with your thought, Delaila?
No, I was just gonna say, like, she's still going. I was just gonna say, like, I don't understand what the purpose is of her having shamans. Like, okay, the shamans definitely beef up her. Is she dead ass? Sorry. Hopefully it's done.
It's fine.
Please leave this in.
I am 100% leaving this in.
Oh my god. I just don't understand, like, why they beef up her warriors, right? But
Yeah.
I don't understand why, like, why she wanted all that power, why she wanted
I
shamans.
guess just to build an army and make them stronger. And it's just weird that her method of doing this was to use poison. And it's also kind of weird and a little contrived that Jin is significantly better at resisting it than other
Yeah.
people that she's afflicted with it. Is that just supposed to imply he's stronger than them? But he's just
He's mentally strong, man.
Yeah, I don't know. It was definitely odd.
At least Khotun Khan had, I mean, yes, he had the motivation to conquer, obviously, he's a Mongol, but he had not just a character in the way he presented himself in scenes that was cool, but he also had an underlying philosophy, an underlying ethos that directly ran in with Jin's traditional upbringing as a samurai and made him question his beliefs. There was a larger story purpose. The eagle
also,
is almost
yeah,
like just a MacGuffin to spark conflict, and then
I mean, to me, it's like Khoten Khan. He's very generic, but he's imposing, and yeah, like you said, like he gets Jin to kind of realize, like, we can't fight like this, because if, like, we can't fight as by following the samurai code, because if we do, we're going to lose. And it got him to realize that no, we need to fight the way that they fight, if we want any chance of stopping them. But he's still like a pretty just generic, like, big mean Mongol guy, right?
Mhm.
He's got his moments, but that's all he really is. I feel like they really tried to lean into, okay, how do we differ from that? All right, let's have someone that's more strategic, or someone that's more unique. And they leaned a little too far in that direction, because it just kind of fell flat on its face, in my opinion.
At least for Khotun Khan, there was the sense that he wanted to, like, feed his people. He wanted to, like, they kept, like, taking food from the people of Tsushima because he wanted to protect his own people. So that makes a lot of sense, and which is why someone like the person that I just mentioned, the Straw Hat guy, Ryuzo joined him, because he couldn't feed his own warriors. So there was, like, this theme of, like, just wanting to, like, sustain your people, which makes total sense. For the eagle, I just don't understand her motivation at all. It just felt like a plot
with that larger
piece.
theme of the game of society overall just being overbearing,
Yeah.
and the larger politics and how it affects the little people. Yeah.
Yeah, and the eagle specifically, it felt like a plot piece just so we can get into the mind of Jin. I felt like they could have done that in a way without even having her there.
They did,
but she looked cool.
They, I mean, what they didn't have to do any more than putting Jin on the island where his father was murdered, and they did kind of an unjust invasion, you know? Like, going to Iki Island, that alone had to bring a flood of memories for him, because he was there when they went in and were murdering raiders. and he had an opinion about that. So they didn't really have to contrive this this poison that's in his veins, making him hallucinate these things. I mean, it just put him in, like, to get it into his mental state. You put him at the place of his of his guilt, of his trauma. That should have been enough.
I have a feeling they added it purely looking for a way for gameplay, for adding a new enemy type, new gameplay mechanics.
That too, yeah.
When it wasn't necessary.
I still feel
this is why I said it. Oh, sorry.
No,
Go
I mean,
ahead.
I still think there could have been a better written reason than poison. You know?
No, yeah. I mean, this is why I said at the beginning that if I had been part of this, I would have not. You don't even necessarily need to remove the Mongols. Just make the Mongols like the background to maybe some lord of the underworld within the feudal society gains power by promising people protection from the Mongols, and Jin basically, has to go up against this criminal organization or something, and that would be an interesting way to introduce new gameplay mechanics, new types of enemies that maybe use more tactics akin to the Ghost. If you understand what I'm saying.
I think that something like that. I mean, we don't have to go off the rails too much. I think something like that wouldn't work as well in a place like Tsushima and Iki, where it's a little more uncivilized than, say, the mainland of Japan, like Honshu.
Yeah, I'm just spitballing as something
fine.
that would have been more, and again that would have like Delaila was talking about with the food, that would have played more in with the themes of the original game.
Yeah,
the impact of all of these larger political events on the local society. Yeah,
yeah, and I get it. Anything else you guys want to say about the eagle? We could talk about our last character.
Let's talk about it.
All right, let's talk about Fune, the leader
right,
of the
so
Raiders.
let's just begin by stating that I'm an idiot. Apparently, there's a big side quest for Fune after you beat the main campaign.
Yeah.
I thought I beat all the side content before I beat the main campaign, but apparently there's one unlocked after. I was explicitly told this. And I'm an idiot and forgot. So I did not play this side quest.
Let me say, Jason is so deep in the weeds with Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers that he deliberately ignored my warning, letting him know.
I did not ignore. I forgot. I forgot. I did not ignore.
Splitting hairs, but he did not do this side quest. We're going to spoil it. So yeah, I guess let this be a warning for anyone. If you beat the main story of Iki Island and you did not do the last side quest that you can pick up from Fune in her village, pause, go do that side quest, then come back. Jason, are you cool if we talk about it?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. I mean,
it's the best side quest in the game.
Yeah.
Well, the side quests overall were awesome, I thought. But
I think, if this isn't the best, it's the second best, and I will talk about the other one that I'm thinking of after. But throughout the expansion, and I feel like this was kind of another dud for me, Fune was kind of made out to be this very scary leader that Jin should be afraid of, and she was fine. Like, she wasn't...
Yeah.
She's pretty much non-existent. She has one or two, like, threatening lines, but...
It's more, like, she wasn't really threatening at all for the most part. Like, with your introduction, they tried to make her out to be more threatening than she actually was, and I feel like
one word from Tenzo, and she's like, "Oh, Tenzo likes you." Okay, literally, she says like, Tenzo likes you. All right, never mind. Sorry, I threatened to slit your throat. Like,
I wonder if Tenzo was hyping her up in order for him to not reveal himself, so that what he did to his father wasn't revealed. Because, like, I wonder if Fune knows that Tenzo killed Jin's father, and if she found out that Jin was Sakai, she would have then, like, revealed, oh, well, we killed him.
But I don't think... I think you meet Fune before Tenzo realizes that Jin is a Sakai. Am I incorrect in that? I thought that he didn't know.
You meet her, but then after you meet her and you go and do a mission with Tenzo for her, immediately after that mission, he's like, "I know who you are."
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So okay.
Well, you capture. No, you're right. Because Tenzo captures the Mongol and interrogates him. That's when he finds out who
the
Jin
Mongol
is,
tells him that's right. So
and that's right before you meet Fune.
okay, I thought that was after. All right, but
No,
regardless,
it's immediately before.
okay.
Mm.
Regardless, point about Fune, yeah, she's not really a character, and then that side quest kind of fleshes her out a lot better. It's a shame that a lot of people, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, Jason, are gonna miss that side quest, because they're gonna
Yeah.
finish the main story and think, oh, that's it, I'm done. Because that is a really good side quest, and it fleshes out a character that desperately needed some fleshing out.
Is there a reason that it couldn't have been part of the main story?
I feel
I
like
guess
the only reason is because they didn't want us to know that Fune forgave Jin for being Sakai. So they wanted to like have that tension of like, oh, I can't like reveal who I am. That's the only reason I can think of. I feel like they could have very well like somehow patched that in before the big mission against the Eagle. Or maybe after the Eagle have a moment with Fune, and then after that have the moment with Tenzo. I feel like it would have made for a stronger ending, because after I was like, okay, there's an epilogue, and the epilogue's just like, oh, go and talk to Tenzo in the
Yeah.
village, and then talk to Fune. And it felt like a little bit empty after that like really emotional moment. So I wonder like how they could have patched that in while still keeping the tension that they wanted to build with Fune can't know you're Sakai, you know?
I mean, I think that I guess the way that they wanted it to work was Fune put in that mission. Fune puts a lot of trust into Jin, and it wouldn't make sense for her to do that unless he had driven the Mongols from Iki, and that didn't happen until he beat the Eagle. So I guess that's kind of why. And and for that to be, if they, because I agree that that epilogue, I put that off until I was like done all other side quests, thinking it was going to be like some big thing and it was going to be a heartfelt goodbye or whatever. And no, you talk to Tenzo and he's just like, all right, see ya.
That was
And,
fun.
and that was it. And I'm like, oh, I could have done this and it wouldn't have mattered. Whatever. I think this Fune quest, it made sense to still have it as a separate side quest, but yeah, I guess the justification was just to make sure that that trust was built for her to put that amount of confidence in Jin to tell him like, hey, my men don't know this, I'm telling you, we're saving my daughter during this mission. I guess that's
Yeah.
the justification behind that. Whether or not it's a good justification, I'm assuming that's what they were going for.
Yeah.
Um
But her side mission is really the best for me. It actually made me more sad than finding out that Tenzo killed my dad.
yeah.
Because like so the thing is, her daughter was I guess during a battle, correct me if I'm wrong, like her daughter like broke her leg or her arm or something, and then Fune gave her a medication, and not realizing that that medication's so addictive, her daughter got addicted to it, and it wound up leading like a lot of Fune's men to die. And when someone, I guess in her rule, like if someone dies because of like if someone causes the death of their men for whatever reason, they're supposed to be executed. And because that was her daughter, she didn't execute her. So like her goal was to pretty much put her daughter to rest, because her daughter's a vegetable. Like she's peeing on herself. She can't talk. Like she can't live. She can't function. She's just literally someone that's like in a comatose state because she's just on drugs, and like there's no turning back at that point. And I just felt like that was such an impactful quest, and it sounds like something that would definitely happen to you know, a warrior family. And just like the way Fune talked about it was just so like, it just really moved me for some reason. In the same way that I think the side quests were in Ghost of Tsushima with like Norio and no I forget their names. Norio, I think, and Lady Masako and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I just really like the quest, so
Yeah.
I mean, addiction's a thing, and addiction usually stems from people being in some kind of mental or physical pain. And that was like, and her daughter was really young. So it was like really just sad to know that she had to like put her daughter to rest because she was so fucking addicted. It's great. It was really dark, like really, really dark.
Yeah. Well, pivoting off of that very dark and important side quest, we could talk about the other one that I really liked. That would
Was
be
it the ghosts of Iki? Of
I was
course.
so happy to see Kenji again.
Me too.
That was a fun quest, yes.
Okay, I was gonna ask if you did that one. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. Like, I really liked the idea that someone's kind of taken on his identity, and I'm like, who the fuck could it be? And keep in mind, at this time, at that point, I jumped right into the DLC. I hadn't done my New Game Plus run yet, so it's been over a year since I've played and beat the game, so I kind of forgot about Kenji, and I'm like, who could this be? I don't actually know. And then yeah, Jin's like, you, and it's fucking Kenji. I was so happy. What a delightful surprise.
Well, his the person that he was, I don't know what to call him, the other dude that Kenji was working with, that he was sending, Kenji was sending this dude on missions to like steal shit. And the minute I saw that guy stealing sake, I was like, that's something that Kenji would do. But I didn't think that Kenji would be the ghost of Iki.
Yeah,
I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it was that was a great side quest. And
my favorite one was God, was the woman's name Yuna? It was the one where the Mongols are hunting down the smuggler. You find him. You find the guy dying on the beach.
Sugi, I think her name was.
I can't remember what her name was.
Oh, yeah, and she fakes her death.
Yes.
Yeah,
that was my favorite. Oh, sorry. Go on.
No. That was a great one.
I just loved. You go in the beginning to give her the news that she's being fucking hunted, and then there's actually, after you finish the quest, she's faked her death, and you come back. I don't know if this is scripted in the quest or just happened to happen to me, but a bunch of Mongols raided the town and like killed everybody as I was coming back.
Oh, wow.
That might have just been like an open world thing that just happened to happen for me.
I think that's what it was.
And I had to kill them before I could trigger reading the note that was pinned to the tree.
Okay. Yeah, I think that was just the game being a game, not like a scripted thing. Because
Yeah.
I went back to the village, like I just fast traveled back there, and that didn't happen. I just found all the people huddled around the tree and read the note, and yeah, that was all. Yeah, the side quests largely in this expansion were very good. Definitely, I would say a step above even a lot of the ones in the main game.
All the side quests, in my opinion, all the side quests together, it's probably about as much, if not maybe a little more content than the main story, and it's all better.
For sure.
I think it's like Mark said, as good, if not better, than many of them in the original.
Well, especially for Tsushima, the main story doesn't even feel as impactful without doing those side quests for that final battle.
Yeah, I mean, for my New Game Plus run, I beelined the main story, and if you do that, there's actually not a lot to that game. Mm-hmm. Like it goes by very quickly. So it really is, I don't want to say bloated out, but it's really made whole, I guess, by doing particularly the tales that are centered around specific characters. Lady Masako's tales, Sensei Ishikawa's tales, so on and so forth. Those really flesh out the story and make it more worthwhile. Let's talk about the mythic tales. There were only 2, but I thought they were both great. And the one
fantastic,
the one I mostly want to talk about, because the one with the what was his name? The monkey one.
Riku?
Riku, yes.
Yeah.
I remember because Final Fantasy. Yep.
You mean Final Fantasy?
Black Hand Riku?
Oh, okay. Yeah, Black Hand Riku. Yeah,
you mean Ansem? Which Ansem though? Kingdom Hearts.
God. No, I thought that one was great, but it was like a pretty standard mythic tale, right? It was this legend of this legendary warrior, and you go and find his armor, and
the
you have to
monkeys
fight
are
him.
watching you though.
Yeah, and it was really cool, and it was really neat that you got to like explore this cave. I feel like a lot of the mythic tales weren't quite on that level of like you find this very secluded area, and it's like a puzzle area that you have to explore. Like the Shinto shrines were like that, but like none of the mythic tales really were. This one was really cool, and the armor I used for the rest of the expansion, because
Yeah.
against those really difficult enemies, it was so useful. It was so helpful. Even if I did think fully upgraded, it was a little ugly. But it was really cool.
You can switch it back down though with the stats, the same stats.
Yeah, but like even still, I was like, it's. I don't like those big bulky armors as it stands. But anyway, the one I mostly want to talk about is how they kind of take the mythic tale and make it personal. And I really liked that. It was kind of a deconstruction of that type of side quest where the mythic tale is about your father, and the guy telling it is kind of fudging it, and it gets interrupted by Jin to say that's not true. I thought that was so cool. I thought it was a great way to subvert expectations on going through the main game. You've done like 7 of those, I think the number is, and doing another one because chances are you did the one for Blackhand Riku first. Getting to this and then totally turning it on its head of someone basically telling an untrue story and you interrupt it, and like the ink drawing animation that they do stops.
Yeah.
So that I thought that was so cool, and I thought that was really creative. And the horse armor as a reward was pretty neat. But it doesn't hold a candle to, and there's no way they could have done armor because you have your father's armor, you have the Sakai clan armor, so like it made sense to give you some other reward. It was definitely a really cool.
Not just the way it connects to your father and how artistically they did that, but just the environments. I mean, the environments in all the mythic tales are gorgeous, right?
Yeah.
But for Blackhand Riku, like you have to follow like glowing like phosphorus water, and then you're having a battle in like a phosphorus like under cave like lake thingy, and it was just like breathtaking. And then for your father, you're like the way the waves were like crashing against the rocks, and then you had to like do like some parkour and avoid the waves, or else they would like knock you down in order to get the horse. Cool. Yeah, I was just like, they just keep making these better and different, and they're all still breathtaking.
You would think it would be almost disappointing that you don't like get a duel like you do with the other ones in that.
Yeah.
But the way they do that with the platforming section and the waves and the environment of the wrecked ships, all the rubble that's on the beachhead, and then the way they end it, where you come back in riding the Sakai clan armor, but you save the people and kind of redeem the name of the clan.
Yeah.
It makes it arguably the best of all of the Legends quests.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Even though it doesn't have one of those really cool duels.
Yeah, agreed.
No, but you're right though. From a plot perspective, it's a great turnaround of events. It started off with this guy telling this libelous story about Jin's father and him intervening, and then it ends with Jin kind of rescuing that legacy and changing their minds on it, showing like, hey, like maybe my father was an asshole, but I'm not. So lay off.
Yeah.
And it was also cool, like going back to gameplay mechanics, how you had to sneak in to listen to the conversation, but obviously they're innocent people. You don't want to murder them because then you'll prove them right about the Sakais. So, it's very, very, very cool. And yeah.
Oh, that reminds me. I wanted to ask you guys because there was a side quest where you had to choose who you save. And one person was guaranteed to die.
Yeah.
There was the monk.
Oh, yeah.
You could save the monk or the injured guy who went to save him.
Well,
the woman's husband.
I chose the husband just because the other guy was older, and I feel like, I don't know.
Well, I felt like while the guy was like he was like a father figure to her, and like I felt like if I had saved him and not her husband, that's a decision or a choice that she would eventually come to regret, versus the other way around, right? Like eventually I felt like she would be more likely to make peace with the fact that her father figure was left to die than her husband. So yeah,
Yeah.
we all chose the husband. That's pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's all I really have to say about the quests. We can
No,
talk about.
we need to talk about the shrines.
Well, yeah. We're getting to that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the quests are done, but I want to talk about now. I want to talk about like
okay.
the collectibles, and yeah, there were more bamboo
Yeah.
strikes, haikus, onsens, whatever. But yeah, let's talk about those fucking puzzle shrines. Which
Yeah.
super cool addition. Little too obtuse for me.
Too obtuse. You had to look it up. If you didn't look it up, you're I don't know, a psychopath. I don't know.
Well, I got
you're
to
a serial killer or something.
So and I'm sure people put this together if and when they figured them out, but so in the Legends multiplayer mode at the beginning of the year, I think they added in if you got to a certain rank with each of the 4 classes, you got a special PlayStation themed armor for each one. And the samurai class got God of War themed armor, the archer, ranger, whatever it's called, class got Horizon themed armor, the assassin got Shadow of the Colossus, and the Ronin got Bloodborne armor. But those were only, and to be clear, like they were armors that already existed, but it was a new dye or a new skin for them.
Yeah.
So now I'm glad that they brought those into the single player because those previously weren't in the single player. But yeah, like you got this very obtuse and not really clear puzzle, or it not even it's like a poem that you kind of have to decipher and do the right thing for the thing to happen. And I think the payoff was really cool because they played. It was Ghost of Tsushima orchestrations of music from those games played over this like small little cutscene that happened. Super cool. Like hearing the God of War theme kick in, but in the Ghost of Tsushima orchestration style. Shadow of the Colossus especially sounded fantastic. That shit was super cool. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're not figuring that shit out yourself.
The only one that was easy was Shadow of the Colossus, and not even the puzzle, just like knowing what it is, because it was literally the symbol that you see in the game right on the rock. So I knew right away. I had done the Bloodborne one before, so it's like, okay, this is PlayStation exclusive themed stuff. So by the time I got to the Shadow one, I was like, oh, I'm gonna get Shadow of the Colossus armor. That's fine. But you still can't figure out what you need to do. Like, how was I supposed to know that for the Bloodborne one, I needed to like hurt myself and then heal at the shrine while wearing the Kensington armor or whatever it's called.
Kensington armor.
Kensington. I think it was like Kenzo. I don't know, whatever.
It's like it's like Kensei or something. But to be clear, what I'm talking about is it's not identifying the identity of what the shrines represent, right? Because that's pretty obvious for each one. It's exactly that. It's deciphering the poem and understanding what you have to do. Like for God of War, you have to stand in front of it with the specific armor on and unsheath your sword.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. With the stone stance also.
Yeah. And Bloodborne, you have to heal yourself in front of it while wearing a specific armor. And I think for Shadow of the Colossus, I think you had to wear a specific armor and you had to use a smoke bomb.
Yeah. Which I didn't have smoke bombs, so I was pissed off. I had to go get some, but
yeah, that would suck because there's no crafting system in that game, so it's like
no.
you gotta go find them.
Story of my life, man. When you reach in your pocket and you don't have a smoke bomb.
But yeah, super cool addition. And also there is a shrine for Horizon. It's a destroyed. It's called the Destroyed Shrine. Yeah, it's like up north. It's the Destroyed Shrine. And the way you can tell it's for Horizon, besides being the odd man out, there's arrows all over surrounding the shrine, like arrows stuck in the ground. That's kind of how you're supposed to surmise that that's a Horizon. And the reason for that being is the archer, ranger, hunter, whatever class, I think it's called hunter in Legends, the Legends multiplayer mode, is a female character model. So translating that armor over to Jin, they would have had to kind of redesign it, and I guess they didn't want to do that. So
that makes sense.
that one was left
Give
out.
it to Yuna.
Maybe if Ghost of Tsushima 2 has more playable characters or something, you know. But
Yeah.
It's not like Horizon was left out. I was sitting there wondering, like, well, there's only 3. They're really going to leave Horizon out like this? But no, they didn't.
Yeah.
They did something for it. But yeah, those were really cool. Jason,
I also. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I also didn't realize. I didn't detect what Bloodborne. The Bloodborne one was the first one I did, and I didn't realize like what I was doing or what was happening or what it's supposed to signify. Because like although they had the blood moon there, like I don't know, it just didn't click for me. But then after that, I realized they had like the sound that plays when you like get invaded, or like when you summon an NPC or a player to fight with you. They kept playing that like subtly. And just the environments represented the games a little bit subtly, not obviously, except for Shadow of the Colossus. I thought that was really cool. And I thought the armor sets were really cool, especially the Shadow of the Colossus one, because the eyes of the Colossus like lit up blue at nighttime, like a bright blue. And I kind of got pissed off because I just wanted to wear that armor all the time. But then when I was fighting Kumbush, I got fucked up because you're not supposed to wear ghost armor. In those duels, like you had to wear the Sarugami armor, the one that you got from the Black Hand Riku quest. So I was like a little annoyed at that they gave me all this cool armor that I couldn't really enjoy in the way that I wanted to. But anyway, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just curious, Jason, did you do any of those shrines?
I found them. This is actually the first time I'm hearing like what they actually were. Because I read the poems and then I was just like, all right, I'll move on to like other collectibles. I'll come back to these, and I just never went back to them.
Yeah.
And what clued me in that it was more than just finding.
I thought it was just like world. I thought it was just like spice for world building at first.
Well, so did I at first, and then when you look at your map and you select it, it says not completed.
Not completed. Like, yeah.
Oh, there's something I have to do here. What do I have to do? And I eventually relented and looked it up and was like,
and I kind of wish the guides that like told you what to do didn't tell you what it gave you. Like I wish that like I felt like it was just like so I pulled up one guide and it was like, oh, this is you get this from this and here's what you do. I'm like, no, tell me what I do, and then in the last paragraph tell me what it gives me so that it doesn't get spoiled.
Well, and unfortunately, I guess unfortunately for me, I had already gotten all of those skins in the Legends
trophy hunter
mode.
problems.
Well, no. I mean, oh, okay, yeah. In Legends mode, I had already had all those armor sets. So once I deciphered, oh, these shrines are representative of other PlayStation games, I kind of figured out like this is probably gonna give me those armor sets, but in like the campaign, that's kind of cool. But yeah, like it is a shame that you kind of got spoiled on that surprise. But like, how else were you supposed to do it? Like those puzzles.
There's no way.
Like, yeah, you got to be.
I
like
was more interested in. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you just have to be a master puzzle solver to recognize that there's something for you to do there. But
no, I was just more interested with the more traditional stuff, like from the first game, and some of the stuff they added. I liked like the animal playing, even though at first, because I'm just in general not a motion control guy, as we talked about on our last episode. But yeah. But I mean, it wasn't that bad. When you realize that you don't tilt the controller, you can just raise it up and down.
I would
because at first I was tilting it and it wasn't like responding properly. I didn't realize that you can just raise it. But the flute playing was pretty cool, and I like playing around with the animals. But yeah,
I will take that over the harp with the Joy-Cons any day.
go listen to our Skyward Sword
reference to last episode.
Yeah, go listen to that episode if you played Skyward Sword. We have opinions. Let's talk about the last 2 collectibles real quick and wrap it up. Real quick, I did like the animal sanctuaries a lot too. It provided a lot of context.
Kitties.
It provided a lot of context for Jin and his mother, which is like, you know, the whole thing kind of focuses on him and his father. Well, his mother's death really affected them both, so it's nice to get some more background between him and his mother.
Yeah.
And
I felt it was more effective. It was like the first game where you got sprinkles of his father, and I felt that was more effective. The same thing here. You got sprinkles about his mother, and it kind of I felt more effective than doing a deep dive. Yeah.
Yeah, plus we got sprinkles of her. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, plus we got sprinkles of her from Yuriko in the main game.
Yeah, but that was really short. That wasn't a very long quest line. And the last two things we'll talk about before we wrap up, because we got to wrap up. Archery challenges and the Boken tournament.
Fuck archery challenges. The first one I tried, I couldn't even get the first thing, and then I never did it again. I was like, this is fucking impossible without a mouse. Fuck this.
I thought that at first, because I was like, how the hell am I supposed to get gold? Like, and then I realized that you could upgrade the concentration charm and equip that, and if you also equip the Taduyori armor, you could then slow down time and just get all of them in like 7 seconds or whatever.
The answer to how are you supposed to get gold is you're not until you've upgraded that charm enough. And I was able to get up to silver without that charm, and then once you equip the charm and that armor, it's like golds pretty consistently, and then you're just upgrading the charm more, so that really helped. And I actually really liked that. It was interesting because you get to these collectibles and you expect to just complete them all and like the entire thing in one go, and it kind of was like, yeah, no, you're gonna have to come back when you're better so you can fully complete this, and that was pretty cool. And the Boken tournament was nice to have more duels, because this being a smaller thing had less duels as a result, so this was kind of a way to throw in more duels and still have it make sense. Some of those opponents were super frustrating.
They were the hardest enemies in the whole game. And Ghost of Tsushima,
I don't like how it breaks the mechanics of the combat. Yeah, it like takes out mechanics of the combat and purposely handicaps you. I don't like that, just on principle.
Okay.
It was just it annoyed me, but then once I got it, I felt good. It was like rewarding.
And the irony in them being so difficult is that they all have their very specific fighting styles, and that fighting style boils down to the same 2 moves. So it's interesting that they're really hard when all they really do is the same thing over and over again. So
yeah. You just gotta find the patterns. There was one quick thing I wanted to mention about the archery is I thought it was cool that the raiders that were at the graveyard of the one of the last archery reigns, they like had these like really negative perceptions of Taduyori, and then you had to like wear his armor and like tell his story of like how he's not actually a monster or something like that. I thought that was cool. Like they made it a little bit relevant and tied it into the story.
Yeah, that was one of those unwritten tales that the game tried to get you to do. Which are just like they're like side quests that don't show up as side quests. They're just like events that happen that you can happen upon.
Like the house.
World. Yeah.
We didn't even talk about that, but the house, that was cool.
Yeah.
They're cool, but I just hate that. Like if you didn't find them naturally, you had no way of tracking them really without a guide, and I don't know. From a completionist perspective, it sucked.
Yeah, and there was one of those that was pretty cool because it forced you to load into Legends mode, and do that storyline. And we haven't talked about that. We haven't recorded anything talking about the Legends multiplayer mode. It's got an interesting story. I definitely recommend checking it out.
I've not touched it, so I can't comment.
I did the entire thing without having to use a microphone or anything, like just general matchmaking, partying up with like randos, and like even the raid wasn't too bad. So
yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah, but all right, Jason, do you want to give a Kwasnicki rating on this this DLC?
7 tantos out of 10.
Okay.
I think that it is definitely worth it, especially if you liked the first one. The story is a bit meandering. We went over its problems, but I think the side content on its own is worth it. In addition to the extra open world content it gives you. So the weaknesses of the primary story are definitely made up for, I believe.
Okay.
And you still get all the same great gameplay mechanics.
Yeah. All right. Any other?
I just really loved how pretty Iki was. Like it looked very different from Tsushima.
Yes,
especially when you get to that like purpley like tree area with the waterfalls. That was really
The overgrown battlefield in the center. That's kind of like everything kind of seems to always flow back to that one place, that one
Mhm.
location.
Yeah.
In general, it's like it's hard to believe that they could take that game and make it more gorgeous, but by God, they did it.
Yep.
Any other closing thoughts before we wrap up?
There was one thing I wanted. Oh, so like they added a few new combat mechanisms, such as like the horse bashing. I thought that was
Yeah.
pretty fun. It wasn't like groundbreaking, but I think it's cool. Like instead of having to stand off against enemies, you could just like rush right into them.
Yeah, you could just ram them with your fucking horse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, how dare they like kind of tease in the beginning? Like I thought they were gonna kill my horse again.
Yeah, I was like getting ready to be like, am I gonna have to fucking name my horse again? Am I gonna have to get a
Yeah.
whole new horse from this DLC? Are
That
you
third
fucking
name.
kidding me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Luckily that didn't happen, but
Yeah.
all right. Delaila, what you plugging?
I've been doing a Halloween series called Kitties of the Corn because I'm one of those psychopaths that celebrates Halloween pretty much from September to October. And so I started playing a game that we'll talk about in a minute on my stream in celebration of that. So join me at twitch.tv/assassina_san for that.
I didn't know you
And it'll be
started
on
that.
YouTube as well. Yeah, I'm crazy. I love Halloween, dude.
That specific game, I just didn't realize you had already started it. I guess I'll have to tune in and check it out.
I'm really bad at it. The inverted controls are killing me, but I'm getting used to it. It's fine.
It's probably, I think it's the oldest game we'll have covered on this show.
Yeah.
Real quick, I guess my plug, I'll repeat my plug from last episode. From Gamers Magazine. It is a magazine I helped kickstart, and I recently was able to contribute to. I did their review of Scarlet Nexus that should be getting printed and published this month. You can buy the magazine in print or you can buy it digitally. I believe the website is fromgamers.net. So yeah, if you're interested in a new print magazine, go check it out.
Nice.
Jason, doing anything?
Yes, you can find me on the Genova server in Final Fantasy XIV. I'm a samurai main, Sarai Sanjuro. I'm almost done with Shadowbringers, so I'm looking to take it to the next step. Gonna find you. You can find me in Party Finder.
There's one thing about Iki that's so important that we didn't mention.
What's that?
The lock-on system they added. How did you feel about that?
What? I didn't even know that was a thing.
I didn't know how to do it.
You had to enable it in the yeah, it didn't tell you, but
yeah, I didn't. I got no opinion. I didn't bother.
Yeah, I didn't find it very useful, so you didn't really miss out.
Frankly, I don't think that game needs a lock-on system at all.
No. It makes it more confusing, to be honest.
Yeah. So yeah, sorry.
Okay, that's it.
That our opinion is we have no opinion, or at least Jason and I don't. But Delilah's given
it wasn't that useful.
Yeah, giving it that stamp of disapproval. Okay,
it's cool as an option.
Oh, I guess now we'll jump back. Jason, what's our next game?
Silent Hills, which I'm actually pretty pumped for. I've never played Silent Hills, but I do like Resident Evil. So
Silent Hill, singular.
Hill, sorry.
Silent Hills never came to exist.
I ain't never heard of no Silent Hills.
Yeah, I'm very excited to talk about Silent Hill. I hope everyone else is too, both you guys and the audience. It's very, very good, very, very classic horror game. Yeah, it's really is excellent. If you liked this episode, if you're listening on YouTube or watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe to the video, subscribe to the channel, comment, let us know what you liked and didn't like about Iki Island or about this show. Let us know. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, rate and review the show, 5 stars preferred. Again, tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like, tell us what you'd like to see us cover in the future. I'd really appreciate it if you shared the show with your family, friends, pets, whatever. definitely want this show to spread and grow. And yeah, that's all I've got. Thanks for listening.
Peace.